Hi, today's video I'm going to talk about fear and love. It's too easy, I think, when you, especially if you're new to all this. There's so many different like healing modalities out there, so many different stuff, and people talk about all this huge array of different techniques and practices and stuff like that. And it can seem a little bit overfacing, and there's so many books covering such a huge, wide range of topics. And what I want to do is simplify it right down to binary, um, and that is love and fear. If you can take everything in your life, just everything that you know about life, and for now, just divide it into two. It's either love or fear, because it's not that things exist the way they are, it's your interpretation of those things. And your interpretation of it and reaction to it is either coming from love or it's coming from fear. If you really want to set this whole evolutionary journey and healing journey for all your old traumas and stuff to heal, if you want to set that to autopilot, this happens once your love outweighs your fear. When you are coming more from a place of love than fear, it's like that tipping point, right? When it's like when it flips over. I think a lot of us are coming mostly from fear, and we live in a very fear-driven kind of society. You only have to see the media and the things that people attract. So, and people will say the media are keeping us in fear, but let's look at it another way. The media are feeding you I do like a good rhyme. The media are feeding you what you're asking for. It's supply and demand. And I can't even remember where I heard it, but I heard it put so well, and it was, they're just feeding into our existing narrative of discontent. So I just think that's such a perfect way of putting it. So we're all walking around with this existing, like fear-based sort of sensations and perceptions, and what we do, and as humans, is we have that confirmation bias. I think I mentioned it before, and it's like your brain always wants to prove itself right. It wants to keep today like yesterday because you survived yesterday. So if today is like yesterday, then you'll survive today as well, and that's why we get stuck in patterns. And even if it's long-term destructive, you survived yesterday, and it's not thinking ahead. It's just doing what it knows has worked so far. And so we get stuck in these patterns, we get stuck in fear-based patterns, and we experience this. Instead of just kind of owning it, what we do is we look outwardly for something to base it on. So we would look at things like the news. Instead of going, oh, I feel like shit because I'm not taking care of myself. Instead of doing that, we go, I'm feeling like shit because of, oh, well, because there's a war over there, and because people are getting hurt and mugged and robbed, and, and there's murder and there's violence, and we're looking for things to justify the way we feel so that we can put it out there and blame someone else. It's that simple. And so you know where you're at if you're coming from love or fear based on what it is that's really getting your attention. What is it that you find yourself kind of looking at with almost like an addictive energy. When you see it and you like can't get enough, and you kind of really go into it. It might be a thread on Facebook, and it might be a really beautiful loving thread, or it might be a really fear-based one or a conflict-based one, and see where you're at just by noticing where it is that you're putting your energy. Our job is to get out of, not even out of fear, but to tip the scales from predominantly fear to predominantly love. And the best way to do that, the obvious way that you'd think of, straight away, off the top of your head, you'd think, all right, so stop investing in fear and start just focusing on the things you love. But the only problem with that's that overly simplistic way of looking at it, is then you start to push the fear away with an air of rejection, with an energy of rejection. So you're rejecting it and resisting it. And there's that saying, whatever you resist persists, and it's so true. What we do is we start to grow the shadow side, and I'm going to talk more about shadow work later. But shadow work can seem quite complex, but what we're talking about now is about simplifying everything, so like to make it as basic as possible, so that it takes away the intimidation of the whole journey, simplifies it. And It's very much, I find, especially like for myself, I was very cerebral and still am cerebral. And if someone had told me it was that simple before, I'd have gone, all right, yeah. And then I'd have gone, now show me the complicated stuff because that's what resonates with me. And it might be the same for you. But what I'm saying is, please don't let this fact escape you that it is really just that binary. I mean, when you bring it all together and we go deeper into that concept, which I'm kind of going to touch on now, you'll realize it's all just one thing. It's all just love anyway. And there's no easier time to witness that right now than right now. So, how do you do it? How do you get from fear to love? The way to do it is to transmute the fear into love by loving the fear. Just imagine that movie Beauty and the Beast, where there's like the bad, the evil, and the good, the beautiful, and the whole story is about the love realizing that this fear thing is just in pain, it's just hurting, and actually when she loves it, that evil transmutes and becomes love. The pain becomes, it heals. And this is a really perfect example of what we're experiencing in life. We want to transmute the fear. So when we talk about shadow work, if we avoid the fear, which is what we generally try to do in life, and I say try, using that word try because we're not succeeding if we're trying to avoid it, right? And the fear will build up, and we reject it and we push it away, and it starts fighting for our attention, saying, no, I'm here, I exist, look at me. And that's when you start to get them triggers that we spoke about before in another video. And it's because the fear is so built up, it's in a pressurized container waiting to be seen. What we want to do is get into our fears and realize that they are actually love-based. And right now, the way things are going on the planet, it's really easy to see. So notice how as the fear surges so high, look at the level of love that we're experiencing, the connection, and the way that everybody's really pulling together. And in the UK at 8 p.m. a couple of days ago, everybody were out in the streets and in the windows just applauding the NHS, the National Health Service, for all the hard work that they're doing and for putting themselves at risk for the greater good and to help people out. And it was so emotional and moving just to see that and realize that this is what we're made of, right? This is when it comes to crunch time and the stakes get high, like now, we all tap into resources that are authentic with who we are. And we can see this pattern emerging then, right? It's that the fear is showing us the love that it is. So imagine this. This is a vision that came to me extremely powerfully in a meditation, in a Kundalini Kriya meditation that I was doing, and it showed me this thing. In fact, I kept a reminder of it on my phone. I'll just show you what that looks like. See this pattern? Like that. The black and the white like that. And it's like, say, this is like the fear, the darkness, and this is the love, is the lightness up there. But within the light there is still little elements of darkness, and within the darkness there's still little elements of the light. And our life, our existence in each life is like this bubble of awareness that just floats around this pattern from light to dark, just deciding whether we want to be in the dark or in the light. There's no right or wrong, it's just a choice. It's like left and right. But ultimately we're finding our way back to love, which is towards the light. But seems there's no real rush. We've got lifetime after lifetime, or however you want to look at it, whatever your beliefs are. So we want to include the darkness. Now, what does that look like in terms of you, yourself? To go back and remember your traumas and the things that you've rejected in your life, whilst in a very loving, deep, high vibrational, say, meditation or breath work, or using entheogens or something like that, that's powerful healing modality, is to revisit those old traumas and see the beauty in them, to see the beauty in them, because then that thing that was a fear-based program that was in your body, that is like the weight, imagine you're like helium balloons floating up and your fears are just holding you down, and the natural thing is that you will automatically float up when you let go. You don't do work to raise up, you let go of the low vibrations and you automatically float upwards. That's the natural state of being. And so every time you go into the shadow and you start to look at all these old traumas and parts of yourself that you've rejected, and we'll go into parts again in another video, different parts of the self and different attributes and, you know, memories, and just bear as I say. Cacao, can't recommend it enough. Amazing. Really good for connecting you to your heart. So we can go back into our traumas and experiences and dig out the love that's in there. I mean, just doing it cerebrally, consciously, is a good first step. I mean, as you go into this journey, you'll tend to cycle back to the things that you thought you'd dealt with. So you might go in and on one level you go, oh yeah, I can see the benefit in that. Okay, cool. And you forgive somebody and then you move forwards. And then you might do a breathwork session and you might all this stuff might come up and you might cry and laugh, and then you might be like, wow, I thought I dealt with that, but I've just dealt with it on a whole new level. And then you might go in and do another breathwork session on a meditation and it might all come up again. And what we're doing is we're cleansing it from deeper aspects of our being, until it's completely gone. So that's what that looks like. So we're transmuting the fear into love and gratitude and something higher. Once, like I say, once that scale's tipped, we fall into a state of courage. Courage is when your love outweighs your fear. If you really think about it, you're more willing to go into the shadow and do the deep work and confront your deepest fears when you're in a state of courage. And that courage is going to come from, do you know what? I owe it to myself to go in and let go of this low vibration. I owe it to my family, to my children, to the generations to come, to my friends, to have the best me. I owe it to myself ultimately. And that, then the love outweighs the fear. So I just want you to maybe sit with it and think about what it is you can do to transmute the fear in your life. Who can you forgive? Forgiveness is a massive one. It's like really, really important. What can you be grateful for that you're currently scared of, just by reframing the whole thing? When I say reframing, I mean looking at it from a completely different angle and seeing the gift that's in the thing that you fear. How many of your fears, known fears, can you look at now? Maybe write all your fears down on one side of a sheet of paper, and then on the other side, a positive about it, and slowly start to transmute them and go through it until you feel something shift and go, wow, there really is a gift in that. You're not tricking yourself, you're actually finding the gift in it. This is alchemy, right? This is shifting from one vibration to another. This is how we heal deeply. Because what's going to happen is it gets easier and easier and easier. Even though the stakes get higher and each process goes deeper and the release might be bigger, and the purge that you go through, the crying, the laughter, the vomiting, whatever it is that you go through, the cleansing process might be more intense as we go right into the deep-seated programs, but the relief is way more powerful as well, and the reality shift that happens as a result of that is way more powerful as well. We want to get this on autopilot, don't we? We don't have to manage this for the rest of our lives, always trying to, always trying to figure out ways to do it, because eventually I can talk from experience because this has happened for myself. If I just relax now, my body goes into healing mode, I'm shown things, and my body starts to do its own form of yoga and pressure point work, and now it also does that on other people, can touch other people's pressure points and feel all their meridians and stuff like that, and interfere with their aura and energy field and do healing work. And it happened as a result of doing this, set everything to autopilot. It's what people call Kundalini awakening or spiritual awakening or whatever you want to call it. It's just a vibration that we get to. And I will say that happened as a result of shadow work, of transmuting the lower energies into the higher energies, fear into love. more accurately. So just allow yourself to absorb that, and I'll just sink into that as well. I like to just, sometimes when I'm going off like this, I'm speaking quickly, and you're like, yep, and I don't want the video to be over too quickly, and you go, yeah, that was a good video. I'd like to just give you that moment to, to sit with it and really think about it, and maybe look at doing that exercise, a sheet of paper, what you fear and where the gift is in that thing that you fear. So now imagine, you can pause it here if you want as well, whatever, or do it after, or do it in your mind. But sometimes it's nice to get it written down and actually see it and see the work that you're doing as you go through it. So as we get this thing onto autopilot, that can look like so many different things. It'll manifest differently for different people. I know people have had these awakenings and the body doesn't do the self-healing stuff, and some people's does. What I keep being shown more than ever is that, again, I'm going to go back to this little thing, as you can see there. And when you go into the light or into the dark, you're surrounded by more of the same. So when you're in the light, there's only little black dots, and when you're in the black, there's only little white dots. Even though they are there, there's less of them. And that's a really perfect depiction of when you start to move up into different levels of vibration, or you're shifting around, you're surrounded by more of the same, obviously, because your vibe attracts your tribe. And so when you're surrounded by those people, it becomes easier because you're surrounded by it. So it becomes kind of an exponential process of growth, or letting go, however you want to look at it. It is this simple. Okay, and then the other thing I wanted to touch on is right now, looking at how things are, imagine it like this is the vision that I was shown, is there's a sweet spot is right in the center where fear and love meet. I'm going to go on deeper into this and explain exactly what happened in this process that I had, that showed me how it all works. And I'm going to do a meditation, show you how you can use your body's innate functions to start to completely reprogram all your stuff. This stuff's like self-hypnosis without having to do anything other than just use your body's natural processes. Really, really, really simple, really powerful, and really effective at just undoing old programs. And I'm looking forward to sharing it, but I think where I'm at now in all this, it might seem a bit alienating. I'd like to back it up with some other concepts first, get everybody who's watching to kind of see why they're doing this and what that actually means, and why it works, because then once you have that under your belt, it's going to go deeper, and the commitment's going to be there, the trust in the process is going to be there, and the results are going to be more profound. So imagine this, right? So as the fear and love, they're opposite ends of the same spectrum, and as they kind of move together, bearing in mind, like Beauty and the Beast, the ultimate goal is for that original love, the original love affair, the love and fear. Imagine there was only love divided up into love and fear, right? But fear is still love, because that it's not become something it isn't. It's kind of masquerading as something it isn't, to give us the experience of duality, so that it can experience itself via what it isn't. And let's say that the human journey, or maybe the journey of consciousness itself, is to see itself for what it is, to rediscover its innate state of being unconditional love, its original state. So as love and fear have this flirting sort of interplay, and the duck and the weave, and the push and pull, is we breathe in, out, the tides like this, and the cycles, everything's kind of to and fro, and it repeats, and it's all cyclical, and you can see it's like this play of love and fear. As they get closer, this is what I was shown in the body, as the fear starts to raise up and the love starts to raise up, the resistance between the realization of, so let's say in one area of your life you have high fear, the resistance to the realization that that's love is what causes the discomfort. This is going to sound really complicated, but I'm going to try and simplify it. Once we surrender to the fact and really deeply understand that this thing in our life that we think is really dark and heavy and fear is actually a huge gift. Okay, the closer we get to that realization, I want you to imagine that there's like two hose pipes firing water at each other, and the kind of imagine when they hit each other, that tension, right? And imagine that pressure where they hit each other, that bit there is like resistance. That's your resistance to realizing that it's all one thing rather than two against each other. It's one flow of energy, right? And so the closer we get to that realization, it can seem it can seem painful. And then the fear becomes really intense and the love becomes really intense, and we're really getting close to that point. There's so much pressure like now on the planet, with this COVID-19 pandemic. You can see that the fear is really, really high and the love is really, really high, and the kind of there's this huge schism, this huge division, is like they're butting up against each other and everyone's kind of torn between one and the other. It's just waiting for us to realise, it's the same thing. How much love, when was the last time you saw this much love and connection and compassion and people reaching out and being there for one another's support and care, all these businesses giving things away. I don't know if you've seen that, and people doing this, what I'm doing now, is sharing as much as they can for free, to try to help as many people as possible. And it's just this thing's coming out and we can't even help it. It's like we're doing it whether we like it or not. We're just, that is our nature, is to be loving and kind and to do this. And the thing that's got us there is fear. Now, if that's not a real obvious key indicator that fear is love, it's guiding us back to love. It's coaxing us back to love. It's saying, look what happens. I'm going to show you how to see the love that you really are at your deepest level, because you're too caught up in all this nonsense, stories and conflicts and arguments and resentments and jealousies and stuff like that, and guilt and all this heavy stuff that we're carrying around. And it's like, and what it does is it intensifies as high as it can, to the point where we can't ignore it anymore, because we do kind of ignore it. Like I said before, we're looking the other way, so it fights for our attention. Because as we're looking in the other way, we're not even moving into love. We're kind of distracting ourselves from all of it, and we're trying to get out of the game completely. We're not moving into realizing who and what we are at soul level, the love that we are and the divine energy that we are. We're kind of just playing on phones and watching TV and all that distraction stuff, which is cool if that's what you choose. I'm not saying it's good or bad, it just is what it is. But as you can see, the fear is increasing. It's saying, come on guys, it's time to see what you are. It's time to connect with the divinity that you are. It's time to explore the depths of the love that you have to offer and what's going on inside. So it's pushing you. It's kind of like what you call tough love. I guess that's what fear is. It's tough love, and it's pushing us into it. Now there's a sweet spot when that resistance between us going, oh, I don't want fear, I want love, I look after my family, oh, I don't want to be scared, I want love, and then we go, it was that did this, because it's love. Right, you have that moment, that realization, and when you have that realization, properly have that realization, you surrender that resistance and that pressure of those two things butting up against each other. They're no longer bashing up against each other. They go, and they become one. They join into one continuum, and we can be present right in the center, neutral. No good, no bad, neutral, right in the middle. And realizing that all along, all we had in both directions is love. And that is the sweet spot. That's where we're heading. That's what life is doing for us right now. It's what it's always been doing. but you don't obviously always realise because there's distraction everywhere. We're going through a process. It's kind of the game is to go through the process. You know, that's what life is. It's a process that we go through to find our way back to love. There's little clues everywhere. People laugh and talk about breath work and say the answer is under your nose the whole time. Obviously, your breath is right there under your nose, coming out of your nose, and it's almost like some big cosmic joke. And then there's like Super Mario, there's like mushrooms and stuff dotted around, you know, like these little psilocybin mushrooms, the plant medicines, the plant teachers. There's meditation, there's doing absolutely nothing, and it starts to solve all your problems. So all the stuff that really do the deep work are really easy. They're already there, and we have them on tap. They're free and accessible to pretty much everybody, if not absolutely everybody. Obviously, breath and meditation is actually accessible to everybody, and it's just a game we're playing, right? That's the way I see it, and it can seem very, very real. It can be very, very painful, but everything is moving us back towards a state of love, you know. And just to highlight that a little bit more, I heard something that really moved me. I thought it was beautiful, and it was talking about, you know, obviously one of the worst things we can experience in life, when which most people will default to thinking about when I say everything's just a game, and they think about the suffering and the death. And if you look at it like this little saying, it says, grief is love without a place to go. Isn't that beautiful? Grief is love without a place to go. I wish I could you know, say where I got that from, but I don't know. I read that many stuff all over, you know what it's like. Again, it's like, you know, you love someone so much, you've got all this love, when they die, it's like, oh, to do with it, all this love. And again, it's then what do we do with that love? We give it to as many people as we can, because it's got to go somewhere. We give it to other people, we share it, we send it inwards, we get to feel that love for what it is. It is all we're dealing with. And when we go do the deep inner work, that's what we're doing. So please, I'm going to wrap this up right now. Please do that exercise. If you really want to get your healing journey onto autopilot, obviously do all the practices, and we're going to cover as many as we can. I'm going to recommend books and stuff as we go through this process of sharing and giving some nice, deep and simplified concepts, and we'll do the more complex stuff later on for those who resonate with that. But please do the exercise. Where are you carrying fear that you can start to take the first steps to realising the gifts that is, and let's tip the scales the other way. Be the scientist, as my man Craig always says. Says, be the scientist, don't just take someone's word for it, or don't negate it before trying it. Just try it, just do the thing and see what happens. Imagine if every day for a month is such a tiny little sliver of your life. Imagine if every day for a month you spent an hour going through people that you can forgive, and forgiving yourself, and taking your traumas and seeing the gifts in those traumas. Can you imagine how that would start to change? Something that simple. Right, I'm going to leave you on that note. Loads of love, loads of gratitude. Have a wonderful day, evening, whenever you watch this, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.